So, welcome back to another video in the OP Academy series. In my previous video, I touched on the fact that the medikit is the bread and butter of infantry. It's easily the most versatile kit, and it's easily the most important kit. It's also a kit that becomes, to a certain point at least, exponentially stronger the more medics you have. So it becomes more than the sum of its parts when you have more than one. When you have like 2 or 3 or 4 medics working together, it becomes even more powerful than if you in comparisons to the other kits. But it's not the most. I will never agree to that it's the most powerful kit on its own. And that is for this. I mean, you can make it. It's easy to say that the assault kit is. In some situations, the assault kit is more powerful. It has the potential to deal a lot of damage in a very short amount of time. But there is another weapon in this game which is so powerful that the kit who has infinite of them automatically is the best kit in the game in terms of how much damage you can deal. And I'm of course talking about the hand grenade. So you will see me on occasion play support kit in 5v5s. And it is for the simple reason that it has infinite grenades. I mean, the guns themselves are okay. You can, in some situations, I mean, this particular gun, the USMC support weapon, probably has the highest damage output of any weapon in the game because it has an insane rate of fire. But it's not because of the gun you spawn support. It's obviously because of these. In this video I will talk a little bit about, or I will talk about grenades and a little bit about the support kit, but also how people use grenades in general, because I mean the public guys, they figured this out a long time ago, that the grenade is king. But the competitive community is lagging behind in that regard because they're not utilizing the nade to its full potential. So as an example, how many times have you seen people start a mix like this? So this is just dumb, and it doesn't really matter like if you get a lucky kill or not. I mean, obviously it's great to get a kill, but to start a mix just like doing this, don't do that. There is a better way. And you will see me when like now, I mean, I consider myself to be a well-rounded player. I'm proficient at a lot of things in this game. But the nade is specifically the one thing that I think I do the best. So, and you will see me when I play that I will throw, a lot of times just throw one nade. But I will, or 2 perhaps. But I will sort of wait to see if I get a hit registration. So that is the key. And obviously you all know that I love spawning west. But I will spot, everyone spots in the beginning, but I will not nade just to get the lucky kill. I will see, like if I see someone enter chicken, then I'll nade. And I'll nade 1 time. And if I get the kill, I will nade 1 more. and try to keep track of where the revive is coming from. Like, nade once more. Leave a little bit of time in between nades. And see if you get a hit registration. Don't just throw all your nades at once. Because here's the thing. A medikit without nades is no longer anywhere near as versatile. Any kit without nades, actually. Or of all the kits that have nades. Is nowhere near as versatile when the nades run out. So, especially on the attacking side, to have kept 1 or 2 nades when you actually get to this position, when you have actually progressed to within where you can actually reach the flag. To have nades then makes your options, you have so many more options. So, from this position, if someone is on south roof, I can nade it. If someone is south spawn, for example, I can cover nade myself and perhaps get onto flag. So this is one of the aspects that people miss with nades. And let me give you an example. A lot of people play on the dog server, where there are no nades. And anyone who's played, especially when there are good AK reggers on the other side, but and when you have more than when you have a certain number of players playing, it's almost impossible for US to get out. And that's simply because there are no nades. So when a nade is not just used to get a frag, it's also used tactically. Because when the US side have nades, the mech sides have, or the other side, whichever side has nade actually, the other side has to play differently than if there are no nades around. You can use the nade to cover. You literally lay down covering fire to sort of progress to be able to cross an open area, for example. So if there are lots of people camping the car over there, if I have nades, I can make them sort of duck or have to hide a little bit. There are so many things you can do. Like, you can cover the corner over there. You can buy yourself those extra few seconds you need to get somewhere. Because I've said it before many times too, whenever I discussed it with people, and I also wrote it in my text piece about the M16, that similarly to how when you get a frag is a ticket to entry, like to enter. It's a ticket, you have to do something. When you get a frag, it opens up the space and you can move into that space and sort of occupy it. If you get a frag and you stand still, you miss your opportunity. A nade works in a similar way. When you have nades, you can occupy a space without actually being there. So you can... Let me give you an example. Let's say I'm playing mech side. And there are people coming from the south. So I see a guy jiggle peeking that corner. And I know there are people in chicken. If I have nades, I can cover nade the corner, so I don't have to think about that corner. And then in the meantime, I can peek, get a kill here, and perhaps nade again. So if I don't have that nade, and I push up here to sort of confront people in chicken, if that guy peeks me, I'm dead. In this way, I can at least make it a trade. Like, if he peeks me, he chooses to die. That's one example of how I use nades a lot. And you know, another example is, and this is especially true on Karkin, by the way, because there are so many people who like to just camp that south roof. So if I'm US and I come down to this area, I will sometimes nade the high nade on the roof. And if I don't get hit registration, I know the roof is clear. So it sort of gives me info. Now there are two things. Obviously it means that I can go roof. And obviously, I mean, someone can jump there from hotel, but if I'm quick about it, I can probably get roof without and sort of occupy the roof space. But more than that, if this is like in the middle of the mix or in the middle of the round, and one guy has been consistently camping roof, if I do the nade, the check nade, to sort of see if he's still there and I don't get any hit registrations, I will immediately suspect that he has changed position. So I will be very careful about this position, and I will peek this like very suspiciously if a guy has been camping roof and is no longer there. So there is like so there are advanced ways to use nades, and this brings me back to my beginning. To just do this because you want to get rid of your nades before you pick up that AK kit, it's literally what people are doing. They're just hoping to get a lucky kill so they can get that AK. And it's... I mean, if you're useless with the M16 to that degree, then yeah, maybe it works better for you. But you shouldn't be useless with the M16 to that degree. You should be able to use your kit effectively. And the nade is by far the most powerful weapon in the medic kit, in any kit. So to sort of just throw them willy-nilly without thinking about anything is stupid. So, but let's turn to another issue here. Now, before we actually move on to the nading technique that I want to discuss, I just want to touch on the, how viable it is to spawn support in a competitive setting. I'm mainly talking about 5v5, although it has its place in 8v8 as well. So you will see me spawn support occasionally in matches, and I said in the beginning that it is because of the nade, and that's true for 99% of the cases, but it does happen that I spawn for the added firepower as well. The example that immediately comes to mind is beachhead on Gulf. Like, if you're defending it, for example, it can be really devastating to just get the support kit going in that tiny flag zone. So that's one thing. Like, this gun is not just like, I mean, it is these guns are really powerful, and they can, especially that USMC gun has an insane damage output. But it is mostly for nades, and that also means that it depends very much on the map how viable it is. Maps where flags are close together, such as Karkand, Sharky, and Mashtur, are very well suited for nade strats. Yeah. I mean, just look at where I'm standing now. I can actually nade both flag zones from one position. And it's a player who's good at nading can really disrupt things for the enemy team using the support kit on a map like this. And especially if the other team plays very conventionally and just like, you know, have the medic train running directly into flag zone. As I said in the beginning, the medic kit is really the foundation of infantry play in general. And it's really hard to stop. It's really hard to stop a medic train when you're outnumbered. But support and noob tube in certain situations, or the assault kit, gives you a chance to win a frag situation where you're outnumbered. Especially if you're really good at nading, that's actually, you don't really have that. You have a pretty good chance of pulling it off. I really believe that. I mean, it is quite common to see. Obviously, we see medic in 5v5. That goes without saying. We also see a lot of assault kits. I really do believe that the support kit is underutilized. And it is overpowered as fuck. I mean, if I designed this game, I would remove this stupid ammo bag immediately. It shouldn't give you full nades immediately, at least. But it is what it is, and it's almost like a cheat to have infinite nades. But for some reason, I mean, as I said in the beginning, the pubbers figured it out. Comp players haven't. I mean, there are some players who have used it competitively on a high level. I mean, it has happened. It's not unheard of, but it should be a lot more common, in my opinion. Now, onto the actual nade technique. And the reason I want to talk about this is, like, obviously it's not hard to just throw nades the conventional way, like people do. I mean, I use this also, like, all the time. But I mix it in with the other style, which is the high nade. So, in contrast to the standard nade, which has a horizontal trajectory like this, the high nade has a high trajectory. It goes up and down. Especially, like, I didn't pick this flag at random. Square flag is, especially from this position. I mean, if you're on the other side over there, it's easier to nade. It's quite easy to nade the flag using this default style. But from this position in particular, it's really hard. If someone is behind the box over there and you're gonna nade them out, to nade them out like this is really hard. But to use the high nade, it becomes a lot easier. There is really no, obviously, like, if you're a medic, you only have 4 nades. There is a chance that people will survive, but if you're support, there is basically no chance, because you can do this forever. It is such a devastating technique, especially from this angle. And just to get back to like the default style, which it definitely has its place. If someone is up against the wall like this, or if you're gonna nade into a narrow space like this, or if you're gonna rush the flag zone. Actually, let's say there's a guy there and you're gonna rush him down, you obviously have to move forward as you're nading and sort of try to get the nade on the backside. Or if you're rushing ramp, you're sort of trying to get the nade to land exactly there so you can get into the angle. Or if you're sort of people coming on the corner, you're gonna rush the corner, you're sort of nading the corner and trying to get yourself into a shooting position. So in those situations, the standard nade is fine. The problem with it is that it's a harder nade to do, especially from this scenario that I'm using as an example from this position, because it's really hard to sort of get the exact distance. And if it wasn't hard enough to get the exact distance, obviously you want the nade to land just here, so it can do damage to the person behind the box. But if it wasn't hard enough to get the actual distance correct, BF2 also has this left and right effect it's also on noob tubes or on nades. So it's sort of, the nade doesn't go in the same spot. It sort of alternates between going left and right and center. So because of that, to get a nade, when you have this, especially when you're far away, when you have this narrow gap here between the flagpole and the box where you're trying to hit, it can suddenly become quite, it can really add to the inconsistency when your nade is going a little bit left and right, left and right. Now, the straight high nade, it's not as susceptible. I mean, it does go left and right, obviously. But because it's sort of, you get the nade in the correct place because of its high altitude, you sort of, it's much more likely that it will detonate in a position where it's going to do damage. So it's the high nade is not as susceptible to the left-right effect. And also, if you throw the high nade at the particular if you throw it high enough, it would actually detonate mid-air. Now, that was a little bit high, but you can do it so that it sort of detonates just above people's head, which obviously creates a splash effect that sort of circumvents this entire cover. There are, I mean, this flag is, I've naded this flag a lot in my day, and the high nade is very well suited for trash share. It is very well suited for being behind the fence. You can do it from the garden area, although it's not as good. And you can do it from behind here, which is really, really good. This is one of the best spots because it lands so perfectly behind the box. To sort of mix in the high nade with the conventional nade. So you see I can sort of bounce it off the wall there as is conventional and do a high nade right afterwards. So it's really it's not about like sticking to one style or the other. It's about sort of using them both for what they're good at. Now, you don't have to go prone to do the high nade. You can actually go crouch as well. It will throw it a little bit further, or it's something I use for, if the distance is a little bit further away, like South Roof there. One thing to note is that an elevated position is always easier to nade, because you can actually afford to throw the nade quite a bit higher, just because of the elevated position. So that essentially means that you can be closer and still do a high nade. Now, if you feel you are too close, you can do the fadeaway, which is you sort of move backwards as you high nade. It is a little bit more complicated, but you can actually decrease the distance a little bit by doing that. So another advantage is like the conventional nade, especially like when you nade hotel flag, you are sort of dependent on bouncing the nade off the wall, especially if you're nading from across the street here. Which is, it works fine, but if you're a little bit further away like this, you can actually easily control where your nade is going to hit by using the high nade. And you can really carpet bomb the whole flag zone. It is a superior way of nading in a lot of situations. Not every situation. There is no reason to make things more complicated than they has to be. So, like, obviously, if you're spawning LMG, there's really no point because it's so easy to just throw the regular nade. But for places that are behind cover, this is, for example, office buildings on Sharky, where like there are sandbags all around. That's a really good place to throw a high nade. The car over there, for example, is a really good high nade position. Like you can really get the nade to land directly on the guy standing behind the car. Or like if people are hiding behind the palm trees like this, you can quite easily get the nade to land right behind there. So it is really an asset to have. Like, it's a really good way to have more impact. And if you it takes time to sort of gauge the distance, or like the trajectory or the angle, and whether to be crouch or prone. It takes time, but if you become good at this, you can really have a very high hit rate in terms of like. And it also means that, as I touched on in the beginning, that people sort of just throw their nades. They throw all their nades immediately. A part of that is if you have a very low hit rate on your nades, you sort of feel you have to throw them all in order to have a chance to get a kill. But if you are confident that you can actually hit your nade where you want it to, you can actually get away with just throwing a single nade, and you can save the other. Like, you can, first off, you can check if you actually hit your target, and then if you hit your target, you can throw the nade the same way, and you can sort of take it from there. Like, you don't have to throw them all at once. You can and this first off, it screws with the timings of, like, people are used to, when they first get naded, they are used to the sort of the interval when nades appear, and that is determined by how fast you can throw them. Like, we all know this interval of explosions, which meaning that you're getting continuously naded. So when a guy sticks his head in the wall and he hears one nade and there are no follow-up nades, people have a tendency to stand up. So just by nading, seeing if it hits, and just waiting a little bit, you can actually mess with people's timings. They can suddenly stand up and take the nade in the face. So regardless of what nade technique you apply, whether you just want to go with the standard nade or if you want to give high nading a try, you should consider not to just throw all your nades at once, and try to make your nades mean something instead of just laying down like barrage at once, and suddenly you're you have no nades anymore, and you're stuck with only your gun. So yeah, that's about it.